Hi everyone, Jim here from Mystery and Mayhem. Today I'm going to do something a little different. Grammaticus Books over on his channel was kind enough to invite me to join in on the top 10 Brotube movie challenge. And this week is historical dramas. So I've chosen 10 movies, and the one rule was that it has to take place before Vietnam. Anything after Vietnam is a no-go. So I kind of racked my brain for 10 movies. You know, it was a little difficult to choose top 10 historical drama movies. I did make some rules for myself. I allowed myself to choose one Western and one World War II drama, because if I didn't set that for myself, the whole list would have been either one or the other or both, because they're like my favorite genres of film for the most part. So I limited it to only to be able to choose one World War II drama and one Western. You know, the Western is a genre unto itself. The World War II drama is a genre unto itself. And all the other movies on the list are basically genres unto themselves, but this is just something I decided to set for myself just to keep things easier. And I also, excuse me, I also wanted to make it that all of the movies I chose featured, you know, a portrayal of a real person from history or a real event that happened in history. So, you know, that kind of ruled out a lot of kind of fantasy movies that could be considered historical drama and others. So I think you'll see more what I mean once I get into my list. And the list, it's a top 10, but I didn't really put them in any particular order, because that just made it more difficult, really. I mean, I don't know how people do that. Number 10 on my list is The Wind and the Lion, which starred Sean Connery, Candice Bergen, and Brian Keith. And it deals with a real event that happened decades before, where a desert sheik, Ahmad Raisuli, kidnapped a politician. Now, for the movie, they made the kidnappee a female, just to make it more interesting, I guess, to a movie audience. But this was an actual real event that happened, and it dealt with the negotiations between Theodore Roosevelt and the Sheikh Ahmad Raisuli. Really good movie. I think it was filmed 1978, if I remember correctly. So that's number 10 on my list. Number 9 on my list was BenHur, and you're all familiar with BenHur, which starred Charlton Heston. And BenHur featured the famous chariot race, which, you know, if you're a movie fan, I'm sure you're very aware of that scene, that famous scene. So that was number 9 on my list, and that was filmed in the 50s. You know, when movies were, you know, epic ensemble casts, and you know, I mean, there's no way you could actually film a movie like that nowadays. It would be just like so expensive to make. Everything's done digitally now, but to actually film a movie like BenHur or Cleopatra, for example, it would be virtually impossible to film a movie like that nowadays. So number 8, I have The Grapes of Wrath, which starred Henry Fonda and dealt with the Depression era, 1930s, you know, the Dust Bowl in the Midwest. And it was just, it was based on John Steinbeck's novel. Very good movie, you know, very good book. And if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend watching The Grapes of Wrath. Number 7 on my list is Braveheart, which was directed and starring Mel Gibson, which featured the character William Wallace, and dealt with you know, his rebellion against the British overlords. And it was a 3-hour movie. It was a long movie, but it was a very good movie. It's conjectured that William Wallace was the basis for the character of Robin Hood, you know, and that's up for debate. But number 6 on the list, speaking of Robin Hood, is Robin and Marian, which also starred Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn. and Robin and Marian personally is one of my favorite movies. And it deals with an older Robin Hood and Little John coming back from the Crusades and finding things different yet the same in Nottingham Forest. The sheriff of Nottingham is still in charge, and Guy of Gisborne, and Marian at this point has become a nun, and they kind of relive a bit of their earlier days in the movie, and it was a very warm, very small movie. It wasn't epic in nature by any means. I mean, the beginning scenes where featured Richard the Lionheart and were set in the Crusades when they're storming a castle. So those were kind of epic in scope. But then, soon as Robin and Little John became disenchanted with what King Richard was doing, and they decided to come back to England to their home, and it just was a very, very small, heartwarming story, which I won't tell you the ending, but if you know anything about the Legend of Robin Hood, you know already how it ended. So the next movie on my list is number 5, Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, this one was epic in scope and starred Peter O'Toole and told the story of T.E. Lawrence. Number 4 on the list is Gladiator, which starred Russell Crowe. And this was set in Roman times in the Roman Colosseum. And it was just a great movie, very well shot. Very highly recommended, this movie. And from what I remember, from what I understand, I think they're filming a sequel to Gladiator 2, which I don't really understand how that's a thing. But it's a movie worth looking into. Number 3 on my list is Saving Private Ryan, which deals with the storming of the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, and also the mission for the character of Tom Hanks. I forget his name in the movie, but he was to bring home a young soldier whose brothers had been killed throughout the war, and so they wanted to bring this young man home so that their mother still had one of her sons left alive. And this was based on a real thing that happened in World War II. I think it was the Sullivan brothers, 5 brothers, and all of them died. Number 2 on the list is Gone with the Wind, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and you all know that movie. It's based in the Civil War era, stars Clark Gable. Number 1 on my list is Tombstone, starring Kurt Russell and Sam Elliott. And this dealt with the story of the gunfight at the OK Corral in the town of Tombstone in 1881. Now, the reason I did put this number 1, this one is probably my favorite out of the 10. And I've read so many books on the gunfight of the OK Corral and books about Wyatt Earp that I can very safely say that this movie got very many of the details correct. I mean, all the way from the costuming to the Earp brothers arriving in Tombstone, to the fact that they became faro dealers and trying to make a living, in the town, and right down to the details of the gunfight itself, and the Wyatt Earp's vendetta ride after the fact, after his brother Morgan Earp had been assassinated and his Virgil Earp had been attacked and crippled. So yeah, it was very down to all the characters, all the real life people that were featured in the movie. That in my opinion is the number 1 historical drama out on the top 10 list. So I've read so many books, and that movie, I mean, it had its faults, but for the most part, it was bang on, and it was a very entertaining movie, and highly recommended if you're into that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's just a real quick overview, real quick top 10 of my choices for top 10 historical drama films, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll talk to you soon. You guys take care. Keep reading.